You're listening to Nurse Converse, presented by Nurse.org, a collaborative podcast amplifying diverse nurse voices. Get ready for a dose of inspiration, a sprinkle of education, and a whole lot of community.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nurse Nalina, and I'll be your podcast host for this episode. A little bit of background on me, my experiences in critical care nursing, ICU, ER, and even some outpatient, and of course, travel nursing, which brings me to our discussion today. So many of you are still interested in travel nursing and wanting to know how to find the best assignments, the best agencies. And honestly, I wish there would have been more resources out there like this when I had first started traveling. So I hope that today can be a resource for you all, whether you're on the fence about traveling, currently traveling, or even if you're just curious about it. Now, today I do have a guest because I feel like it's important to hear from nurses of all experience levels and backgrounds. So with that, I have Miss Natalia Zapata here with me. She is an RN and has been a travel nurse for 7 years. So she definitely knows what she's doing, guys. I actually met Natalia through a travel assignment where we got to talking and we were just like, okay, so travel nursing. Has it all been said and done already? Probably yes, but there's always new things to learn and more advice to give. So that being said, I think we should really start from the beginning on how we got here and what led us to traveling.
Well, hi guys. As Nalina said, my name is Natalia. Super excited to be here and thank you so much for inviting me. So 7 years as a traveler, a lot has been done. A lot has been learned. I'm super excited to say that I have had the opportunity to see many different states in the country. I have worked in different cultural settings and it's been fun. It's been a nice journey. I had a lot of fun. I have loved to travel since I was a kid. So it has been really great to have the opportunity to do this through my job. Work from trauma center to Indian reservations. I am currently taking a little break from the emergency room and working in an outpatient setting.
Much needed, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So just different experiences. And since I always loved to travel, I knew when I got into nursing in school that once I completed my year as a staff nurse, I wanted to go ahead and start moving around the country and learning about different healthcare systems, growing my skills, improving them, and learning about different cultures and different people, from this country. So that was like the number one thing that really got me motivated about traveling. And of course, I had very specific financial goals. It's not a secret to anyone that travel nursing can bring some good financial opportunities.
I mean,
so
being honest, yes.
I mean, why not travel and see the country and get paid for it?
Right,
So that's really what got me into it. Those two major reasons. So, enjoying it, embracing it, having a good time and working.
Yes.
So what about you, Nalina? What got you into travel nursing?
So I was working in the ICU during COVID, which is a story for another day, but our unit had a good number of travelers. So that's actually where I met a travel nurse that worked with me on night shift, and she was super persuasive, to say the least. And we would have these nightly discussions where she would just encourage me and say things like, you're in such an ideal situation to travel. You have no kids. Your fiance, he was my fiance at the time, my husband now, works remote. Why wouldn't you? And listen, at the time, I was very much a creature of habit. I love knowing what to expect, where things were, how to work devices in my own unit, and just the thought of traveling to new facilities where I was constantly the new lost nurse over and over again just absolutely terrified me. And just a side note, I had already actually decided to make the decision to quit the staff job. So before these travel discussions even started taking place, I was just already at a crossroads with what I wanted to do. And there was just a limited variety of nursing jobs where I was from. So it truly felt like my choices were either bedside nursing or maybe a clinic job if I was lucky, because those were the jobs that were fully staffed at that time because people were leaving bedside because, they were getting burnt out from the pandemic. So I was feeling burnt out myself and just feeling really discouraged. And I just think that the pandemic really did, expedite those feelings. But this nurse really became my mentor and told me that, my knowledge and my skills were valuable. So she was like, try traveling and you give yourself the opportunity to grow and to learn. And there's so much more to nursing than this. And I was just also ready for a change of scenery. I wanted to explore new places. I wanted certain times off in the year that was guaranteed, and not a maybe, but guaranteed. And when I found out that I could be making triple of what I was making every 2 weeks, every single week, I started to think, okay, well, maybe this is, worth looking into. So yes, like Natalia said, money was a major factor for me as well.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to make sure that the money is worth it too, because
Right.
with travel nursing, we have the opportunity to travel close to home, but we also have the opportunity to go and work in different states.
Yeah.
And, when you're doing that, you're, multiplying or adding expenses to your regular living expenses. So you just want to make sure the money is worth it. And you want to make sure that being away from your family is also worth it, or
Yes.
that the effort and the sacrifice is really paying off because of the financial opportunity.
Exactly. It has to be worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do want to switch gears and discuss travel agency selection. So, Natalia, I mean, of course, you've been doing this for a while. So, I'm curious to know how you go about selecting a travel agency.
Well, for me, it's very important to work just with maybe 3, 4 agencies. The market is full of agencies. There's so many different, small, big. It gets overwhelming. And then you have all these recruiters calling you. So what I try to do is just use referrals from my friends, because I think it gives me more comfort and it makes me feel a little better to know that I'm working with someone that one of my friends had worked with before. They know the agencies, they know the recruiter, they know the type of jobs that these agencies can provide. So word of mouth is basically like my number one choice. And then if these 3, 4 recruiters cannot get what I need or what I'm looking for, then I go to social media platforms or
Yeah.
just to the websites. But that's pretty much the way I go. I try to use referrals.
Okay, so more on word of mouth and like the personal
Yeah.
experience of friends. And I feel like that's
Yeah.
actually the case with most travelers. They seek those agencies that have the best reputations and, that you hear about more. But honestly, that's something I didn't consider when I first started traveling. When I first started, I was all over the place with travel agencies. I had made all these different accounts and would just look into all of these different assignments that the agencies would post. Hence all the thousands of recruiter calls that I still get, and I'm sure everyone does. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, but
Oh
just
my gosh. Yeah.
but yeah, initially I was just focused more on the actual assignment details, like the pay, the location, the hospital, the specialty. I mean, was it the shift I wanted? And whatever assignment could check all those boxes would ultimately be the one I'd be like, okay, I'll agree to be submitted to and see if they like me. But now that I have traveling experience, I do recognize that there are important factors to consider when choosing an agency. For example, do they offer benefits?
Oh yeah,
Medical,
that's a big one.
dental, yeah, it's a huge one. Vision, life insurance, 401k, all the good stuff. These are important and we need to be asking and getting all those details. Guaranteed hours, that's another one. So, do they offer guaranteed hours for assignments? So, an example of this is if your contract is 36 or 40 hours a week and your shift gets canceled by the facility, will your agency guarantee that you'll still get paid for those hours? I've been with agencies who were amazing and offered guaranteed hours, which meant that I did get paid on those days when the facility would close down, whether it be on holiday or, say, a snowstorm hit. The key was that the facility had to be the ones to make the decision to close. And that example is more related to like outpatient travel nursing. I guess like an equivalent to this for bedside nursing would be if the census was low, you got put on call, or if your shift was canceled, would you still get paid for those full hours? Now, on the other
Yeah.
hand, I've also been with agencies that are like, okay, no, you only get paid for when you work. That's funny though. But yeah, so your facility just has to be the one to make the decision. And this can definitely just, make a difference in your choice selection, I think, too. But another one is sick time. So just be familiar with the laws regarding sick time in whatever state you're practicing. I'll leave it at
Yes,
that.
guys, like this is really important.
Yes.
It's a lot of information, but if you can take little notes on some of the tips and the things that we're saying, because if this is your first time trying to approach travel nursing or you want to give it a try, you're curious about it, it's hard to ask questions when you don't really know what to ask. So the things that Nalina are saying are super important when it comes to like hours, guaranteed hours, the terms of the contract. Some of the other things that we can always ask when we want to talk to an agency about the job is, do you do travel reimbursement? If you're living in North Carolina, like my case, I'm from North Carolina, and then you're going to go travel to California, hey, do you have a travel reimbursement money? Most of the agencies, most of them, not all of them, would give you some money, and it could be anywhere between $400 to 800 or 900, depending on the terms of the contract. And you can use that money. Usually that money is paid back to you after the first week, and you can use that money to kind of, reimburse yourself in some of the expenses for gas, hotels that you had to pay on the way to your assignment. So that's one of the good things, that some agencies would offer.
Yeah.
Save your receipts. And because some of the agencies would make you actually turn in the receipts, some just want your mileage. It just depends. But those are things that you can discuss with your recruiter. Another thing that they offer that many times we don't know, we don't get told about these, is referral bonuses or completion bonuses for the contracts. So if you have a friend, you refer a friend, and after that person finishes their contract, most times some of the agencies will give you a bonus for referring your friend. And completion bonus, if you finish your contract, you get a little extra money for finishing your contract. So that's really good. Not everybody does, but like I said, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yes, it doesn't hurt to ask. And just like the bottom line too is just make sure you're advocating for yourself and asking these things, because while the actual assignment is important, of course, I promise you the agency you choose can influence your experience. I've personally had experiences with amazing agencies like New West and IDR Healthcare, just to name a couple. But whatever agency you choose, always do your homework. Like Natalia said, be prepared to ask these type of questions. I do now want to dive into first experiences with travel nursing. So Natalia, you've been traveling for a while. So since you began traveling, are there any particular experiences that stick out to you that you'd like to share?
Well, I think that first experience as a traveler, that was something that I will always remember, because it's your first time. You're full of fears, maybe a little intimidated about trying something new. So I decided, even though I love to travel, it's different when you go live somewhere for 13 weeks. So I decided to pick an assignment that was closer to home. So my first assignment was 3-4 hours away from home. I was able to talk to the during my interview to suggest or ask and see if they could schedule my shifts all in a row so I could have more days off and I could just go home during my days off. So that was a good thing. That's something else that you can also ask, hey, can I work my 3 shifts in a row, or can I do block scheduling? So that's what I did the first time. I was actually very surprised and very excited to see that I did really well adjusting to a new place. There's so much to see, so much to learn. I learned that I cannot say I love this job or I hate this job within the first 2 weeks, because the first 2 weeks is a process of adjustment. So that was one of the things that surprised me. It really kind of motivated me to get a little brave and just try, well, maybe next time I'm going to go to, I don't know, South Carolina. Maybe next time I'm going to go to Maryland. Maybe next time I'm going to just push it to Arizona. So, you start discovering more from yourself. In my first experience, I was able to see that I did well and I did okay being away from home. So that was very significant for me. And also to see and evaluate if the money was worth it to be away from home. So all those things are things that were very significant for me. And of course, during COVID, very strong days, very strong months.
Sure, yes.
Working on this. So that I think that's something, the pandemic, that we are never going to forget as a healthcare workers.
No.
So those 2 things were, important for me.
Yeah. And just like what you said with the pandemic, I mean, that's that was basically my first experience in a nutshell. I was in the ICU for my first contract, and I actually started this contract as the third wave of COVID was starting. So I mean, pay wise, it was around 2,300 a week because the rates were dropping right before that wave hit. But then all of a sudden, I was starting to see the same contracts, the contracts for the same facility and the same unit I was at, that were for thousands more a week. So I was like, okay, but
Wow.
there wasn't much I could do about it at the time, or at least that I felt that I could do. Plus, it was my first travel contract, so of course I was just more focused on getting that travel experience and just committed to finishing. But then things started to shift. So, I mean, I was coming into work and I would be assigned like 3 patients almost every single night, which some of you might be like, well, 3 patients, that doesn't sound too bad. Well, in COVID ICU, it was very bad. And
That is a heavy load.
it's a heavy load. And, these patients were typically intubated or on the verge of being intubated, sedated, paralyzed, and in positions where they had to be moved every so many hours. So this made them all very critical and complex, and having to prioritize care amongst these patients when all of them had the potential to quickly decline. I mean, you can see where the issue of like safety comes in. So,
Yeah.
I mean, our charge nurses would always have the safe harbor forms printed out and ready before every shift because they knew what to expect and how the shift was going to go. And just a side note for those of you that are not familiar with Safe Harbor, it's essentially just like a safety net that nurses can initiate under certain guidelines and conditions. And I know that's a very vague definition, but there's just like so much that it entails. So if you're unfamiliar with this, I do encourage you to look into that. But anyway, it was a time of true chaos. And I would just ask my husband after every shift, what did I get myself into? And there was just a sense of dread before every shift. And that dread eventually followed me into my days off, even. So it was just something that was just like progressively, I feel like getting harder and harder. And there's actually an article written by Kathleen Gaines on Nurse.org titled "New Report Reveals Hard Truths About Travel Nursing," which we can have linked, but you can also search for it on Google. And it does a really good job of summing up how myself and many of the travel nurses and just regular nurses felt during the pandemic. So I think it's worth the read. But I did meet a couple of seasoned travelers on this assignment who I still keep in contact with today. We really became like the support system for each other. And I truly feel like they were the reason I was able to finish this assignment out. So I would say something positive did come from this. And just a side tip, while we're on this topic, just make friends, be helpful, be kind
Oh, yeah.
wherever you guys go, because you'll never know when you'll need help. I mean, and also it's just good to be kind no matter what, but it's so true. But I'm also smarter now, and I know that no facility or contract or amount of money even is worth risking, your license. So if you aren't okay with something, if you feel like you're in an unsafe situation, or whatever the situation may be, you always have a choice. Even if you're a baby nurse like I was, and you feel like you might not have one, you always have a choice. But ultimately, I didn't let this first experience discourage me, just as, you guys out there watching shouldn't let any negative first experiences discourage you. And I'm glad I didn't, because honestly, every assignment following got better and better.
Definitely, I think, like I said before, just giving yourself some time and making sure that you're trying, you're making some friends. It's what we have discussed before, Nalina. You're getting come, across people that become friends and come into your life to stay, and then you're going to come across some people that you'll never see again, you never talk to again.
It's so true.
But healthcare is team effort. So what you're saying about the friendships or the, working together as a team is extremely important in healthcare. And as a traveler, you have to come in and be a team player, or I'm telling you guys, you're going to be drowning on your own.
You will.
So be a team player, get along with people. If people don't like you, you don't like them, still be professional, and just keep in mind that it's all about being safe and doing the best for your patients. That's the main thing.
I totally agree. And then just making these friends also just help you adjust, like you said, your 2-week rule. I feel like just make these friends during that time. It really like just truly helps. I don't,
Mhm.
And so speaking of the adjustments of that, I do want to know something else. So, leaving behind your partner and your family is just something
Oh,
that a lot of travelers struggle with. And honestly, guys, my husband does work remotely. So I've been fortunate enough to bring him on assignments with me. I know I'm in the minority with this. And so I'm interested to hear your take on this, Natalia, on how you're able to maintain your relationships while you're traveling.
Well, I think the most important thing is to have common goals and know that you are creating this support system, that you are one, and making in my case, my husband is my priority. So making your spouse, your partner a priority is just the number one rule. Make them part of the adventure. Make sure that you schedule and commit to have certain time off during your contract or in between contracts to go home or to have your family, whatever it is, your mother or your husband or your in this case in particular, we're talking about relationships, so have your husband to come and see you, or you go home and spend time at home. It's not only for your own sanity, but also, you need that space. You need to make them part of the adventure. Make sure that you guys have common goals in all of the aspects, financially, emotionally. It's important to have their support. So I always make always schedule some time in my contract to make sure that we can get together. In my particular case, we see each other once a month, or at least we try.
I love that y'all plan
It's
that.
hard. I'm not going to lie. It's very challenging, but I think it can be done. It's just you got to have a very strong sense of commitment and make it work. And we can see reflected the financial benefit in our household, and on top of that, my husband has become like an adventurer too. So sometimes he's like, "Hey, where are you going to go next? I want to come there." And he actually helps me find assignments and locations. So he's part of the adventure too.
He's
And now he
invested
craves
in it.
adventure when I'm working close to home. He's like, "Oh my gosh, this is getting boring. You got to go somewhere fun so we can go travel." So yeah, that, we're just committed. We're committed
Yes.
to each other, committed to our, you know, goals as a married couple. And that's how we make it work. And I hope it can continue to work that way.
I love that. And yeah, I feel like it is super important to have a supportive partner that can sacrifice and just become, involved with the experience, like you said. And so I really do respect you and all the other nurses out there who are making this sacrifice and remaining positive, because I'm sure, like you said, it isn't always easy, but I'm sure refocusing on your goals and why you started traveling to begin with maybe helps just a little bit. But
Yes.
yeah, okay, Okay, so travel nursing is such a broad topic, and there's so much that we can cover, but I do want to mention some helpful tips for all you potential or new travelers out there. So, starting with number one, join travel nurse groups on social media, all the platforms like Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, whatever it may be. This is a great way to get connected with other travelers. And I personally found Facebook groups to be an amazing resource for information on travel nursing, especially when I had first started. I had found all kinds of helpful information just to really just get me started. And even now I'll still refer to them and ask questions, and people are just so helpful in these groups. I'm always learning something new. But literally just go into your search bar on Facebook and type in travel nurse groups and just see what pops up and join them all. But I really think that that's worth mentioning. Also, joining local Facebook groups once you're settled into an assignment. I think that's another thing worth mentioning. This is a quick way for you to get adjusted in whatever area you're in and just get familiar with the community. I feel like this just helps create an easier transition. So
Oh,
that's
definitely.
my advice on that one.
Another important tip, and one of the main concerns when you start traveling, is where am I going to stay? Housing. So for housing, I have used Furnished Finders for many years, and I have been very successful with all of the options, that I have chosen. So Furnished Finders is a great platform, is a website for medical professionals that travel. You can find anything there, from a room with a shared bathroom to a big house that you can share with friends, or if you want to have the whole house to yourself. So there's so many different options. Also Airbnb, VRBO, but I feel like Furnished Finders is just so traveler friendly.
It is.
It's
I love it.
perfect for us. It has a lot of the things that we need. And again, like Nalina was saying, social media is great help, because actually some other travelers or other people can post in social media some properties or rooms or whatever they want to rent. So I think housing is very important. Make sure that you're going somewhere clean and safe. And these options, these resources are super, super helpful. Another thing that I think is very important to keep in mind is we all feel nervous when we're trying something new, and that is normal. So don't get that nervousness overwhelm you and take over. Give yourself some time for adjustment. Like we said, my 2 week rule, but just give yourself some time for adjustment and just, to get it adapted to a new place. Where is the bank? Where is the gas station? Where is the grocery store? It's going to take some time to get
It
used to
is.
all those things. So do not let the new make you nervous and take over, because this could be the beginning of a great adventure.
I agree. Yes. No, that was very helpful. And honestly, even just like with the Furnished Finder, I think that's the only platform, well, for, the housing that I've used. I'm sure.
It's the only one that I have really seen that is strong in the market.
Right. Yeah, I know for sure. I think that they're very reliable, and, I think it's just a really good source for sure. But I want to go into number 4 now, which is when you are travel nursing, taxes. So taxes can become pretty sticky really quickly. And if you're traveling in different states, this is especially the case. So my advice to all of you would just be to find a tax consultant, specifically one that specializes in travel taxes, because filing your taxes and all the specifics about stipends for meals and for lodging can get so overwhelming for travelers. And I think it's just easier to have someone to refer to that knows the ins and outs of travel taxes, because our agencies, they mean well, but they may not necessarily be the best source for making decisions that are related to taxes. So just do yourself a favor and get help with this. Don't just blindly listen to recruiters or agencies alone. Do your homework. Do your homework. I feel like that's like a theme in this
Yeah,
do your homework and speak to the right people. There's always going to be information out there. So just make sure you're looking at the right information and you're speaking to the right ones. But
absolutely.
number 5, yes. So my 5th one, I feel like this is a very short, sweet one, but there's always going to be reasons not to. So if you're scared to try traveling, just know that now is the time. Don't overthink. Don't try to plan the perfect time, because there's never going to be one. Just do it. Not everything needs to be figured out right away. Just embrace the journey and give yourself some grace. It's a process for sure.
Yeah. I always say, go for it. Travel nursing may not be for everybody, but you won't know until you try.
Exactly.
So at least you say, hey, I figure out, I saw that it's not for me. Go back to a staff job. There's lots of jobs.
And they're always going to be there is the thing. So, try
Yeah.
this, and then, try something new, and then go back to staff. Like Natalia said, if it's not for you, but at least try it. At least try it if it's something that you're thinking about. Okay, guys. So, like I said, travel nursing is a super broad topic, and this episode focused more on personal experiences and some key points related to traveling. If you're wanting us to go more in depth with any of these topics we discussed, or if you have any new topics or questions you'd like me to cover, let me know. Always remember to advocate for yourself, ask questions, and do your homework. I want to thank Natalia for joining me and sharing her experiences and insights about traveling with us. So thank you, Natalia.
Oh, I'm super excited. And thank you so much for inviting me to be here and share some of my experience with you guys. I hope that some of these tips and things that we said tonight or today can help you make that decision and make that move. Like I said, it's normal to be homesick. If you're feeling like you're missing home, that's okay. That is normal. So don't
So
feel
normal.
that it's not worth to try because you may be homesick. That is 100% normal. We're humans, and it's part of our normal feelings to feel, to experience that. Another thing, as we're closing and wrapping up things, is never do anything that you feel uncomfortable doing. It's important to always use your nursing judgment. Safety is the number one thing for you, for your patient. If you have an order that you're questioning, don't be afraid to ask and question the order. At the end of the day, you are the only person that can advocate for yourself and your patient. So just make sure that you're being safe out there, that you're trying your best to question things or make sure that you sure understand like what you're doing and why you're doing it. Develop that tough skin and don't be afraid to ask questions, and just make sure you keep an open mind. You're going to be going to different places, you're going to experience different things, different healthcare systems, different doctors. So just don't be judgmental. I would say there's nothing right, there's nothing wrong, it's just different. So just embrace the change, go explore, see this beautiful country, do your work, make some money, and have some fun.
There you go. I couldn't have said it better. That was perfect. Thank you, Natalia. And thank you guys for being here with us and for listening. I hope you were all able to take away a little something from this. I'm also going to now take the time to ask you guys to please review and share this podcast. And if you want to follow my journey on the Nurse Converse podcast, travel nursing, nurse practitioner school, whatever it may be, because I'm doing all of them, just follow me on Instagram at Nalina Mendez. And I hope everybody has an amazing week and see you guys later.
Thanks for joining Nurse Converse, brought to you by Nurse.org. Help us grow by leaving a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Nurse.org supports nurses with career and education tips, life advice, and breaking news. Thank you for all you do and for being you.